Hello and welcome to Nature Days Outdoor Learning Resources, sponsored by the Gower Society. Now I don't know about you, but it's been very wet here today. And so my challenge for you today is to try and make yourself your own waterproof hat. But you're going to use natural materials. Now we're going to be using some leaves, and if you look online there's a lot of videos showing you how to make hats and weave them out of coconut palm. But I don't have any of those in my garden. So I wondered if we could actually make a waterproof hat out of leaves you find in the UK. Now you might think this is the wrong time of year because there aren't any leaves about, but in fact, the leaves that are about are just the leaves that we want. We want the really robust, strong, waterproof ones, which have got a really strong waxy cuticle. And those are our evergreen leaves, which are about at the moment. So what you need to do first of all is to collect as many of those waxy waterproof leaves as you can. Now make sure you get permission because these will be growing plants and you don't want to defoliate, which means take all the leaves off a plant because you will kill it. So make sure if you've got enough that you could take one or two leaves off one or two different plants so you've got a number of leaves but you haven't caused any damage to the plants that are there. So any leaves that you see outside in the rain that are gathering the rain here and the rain is dripping off. These ones here have got a lovely waxy cuticle. They're also evergreen, so they're about at the moment. They don't fall down in the winter time or the autumn time and decompose. So these leaves here are what we need. Now if we can collect the biggest ones we can, and preferably all the same size, but if not, try and get the biggest ones you can actually find. Now these ones here are really quite tough, so these are going to be really good. But I'm also going to collect some ones from another evergreen plant here, which isn't quite as tough, but I'm just going to try see if these ones work as well. So these are quite tough, but they don't seem as robust as the other ones. I'm also going to make sure that I've got these stalks left on, so when I pull it off, I'm going to keep that stalk because that stalk there is going to help me to weave our leaves together to make our waterproof layer. So as many waterproof evergreen leaves as you can possibly find. Put them into a bag, and you'll also need a little twig that you've sharpened at one end to make it into a needle and some string. And then you can do the making inside. First, take a piece of string and measure the size of your head. That's how tight I want my hat to be. So that is how the diameter of my hat needs to be. Cut that so I have a reference for my hat. So that is the diameter of my hat and my head in a long line. You will also need a stick which you have sharpened at one end. A tiny little twig, make sure it's nice and straight. Next, cut a piece of your twine and make sure that it's longer than the piece that you cut that was the diameter of your head. This you are going to use for your weaving. So with one end, you are going to make a clove hitch and you're going to tie that to the end of your needle. So tie it onto your needle and pull it tight. Now it might come loose, so you're going to have to keep tightening that all the time. Next, start laying out your leaves in a line, overlapping them by half. If you can try and get them to be the same size in a line, that's great. If not, try and put them in size order so that the largest is in the middle of the line and the smaller ones are closest to the edge. So lay out all the leaves that you want to use, discarding any ones you don't think are good enough or are ripped, and lay them across the table. Lie the line that represents the diameter of your head along your table, and then continue to lay your leaves on top of each other until they are slightly longer than the diameter of your head. Okay, now if you can try and get ones of the same size next to each other, and if you can then decrease in size as you go out, that will give your hat a much nicer pattern, and also hopefully will help with the tessellation when we roll it all up. So I'm just going to add a few more leaves to make it longer than the diameter of my head. There we go. Now we need to attach each one of these leaves together, and this is where your needle comes in. So your needle, made out of a tiny twig with a little pointy end on, tied on with any string. Now this is garden twine, but you could use raffia, you could use any string at all. Now you're going to take your first leaf and you're going to pierce it with the spiky end, okay, like that. Then you're going to push it through another leaf, which it's going to tessellate onto, okay. Then pull it through. Be careful your string doesn't come off the end of your needle, because it might just do that. Just tighten up your clove hitch if it's going to do that. Then you might have to make your hole just a little bit bigger to get the string through. Put your thumb on the back of the needle and push it through to make sure the string goes through. Pull it through the other end. Okay, now pull it through, but don't go all the way because the string will come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie a knot in this first one. So once the string is near to the end, nearly all the way out, like that, you can see that's the end of the string there, we're going to tie this to the other side, just with a little granny knot, a little reef knot, any knot at all, something to keep it in place so we don't lose the end of that string. So we've got our first part of our hat. Now we carry on with this to join up all of these leaves together. Once you've done your first layer of leaves, if you want it to be broader than that, you have to do it again with another layer of leaves. So again, lay out your line on the table and then put out your leaves above it. Next, cut your string that you're going to weave through a slightly longer than your line of leaves. Then tie it back onto your needle with another clove hitch. And then, exactly as before, you're going to sew all of these leaves together. If you don't want to use the needle or you can't make one, you could also use a hole punch and punch a hole in the leaf and then thread the thread through the hole. There we go. So now we have our 2 layers, and then the next thing we need to do is we need to thread this layer to our first layer. And the way we're going to make a hole with a hole punch in every single leaf on the bottom layer. Then you are going to thread the stalk from the top leaf into the hole in the layer of the leaves at the bottom. Next, take another long piece of string, tie it onto the first leaf on your bottom row, and then you are going to weave it over the top leaf, over the string that holds it together, then back under this row, over this string that holds it together, then back up to the top, past the next leaf, over the string, and keep doing that until you get all the way to the end. So you are going to be tying those two strings together. If you run out of string, don't worry, just tie a new piece to the end. It's better to have lots of little bits of string than one very large one, as it can get very tangled in amongst the leaves there. So now we've got our leaves all woven together. Now you may have some spare ones at the end. Don't worry about those for the moment. If they're in the way when we put it together, we can always just take them off. So now we need to tie our two ends together. Now you can either do this round your head, or you can do it on the table like this. I'm going to try it on the table and then measure it and see if I need to adjust it. So here we go. Now I've no idea if this is going to stay together or whether it's going to collapse in a heap, but let's have a try. Right, now, if you could see me, I'm going to pull the two ends together so that it actually makes the top of my hat come together, you can see, until my leaves meet. There we go. Aha! There we go. Now, this piece of string here, I can either tie around my chin like this. Yeah, I think I'll do that, so I can use my hands. There we go. And then we can rearrange our leaves so that they're not pointing straight upwards to funnel all the water onto our head, but actually lie flat so that they'll stop the rain falling. Now if you can make the darker side upright, closest to the sun, that's going to be great, because that's the most waterproof side of our leaf. But don't worry too much. It's all very random, and also it's creative. So whatever you do is going to be your hat. There, what do you think? Now, once I've got it all the way I like it, twist it around into the right places, make sure there's no gaps, I can go outside and check that it's waterproof. What do you think? Do you think I'll get rained on? Let's go and see. So there we go. It's out in the rain. Can you see it beading? So if you can see that the water is collecting on the leaves, hopefully it will then drip off down here, just like my hat does normally, and doesn't go to the top of my head and stay there and stay wet. Now you can see there's a few gaps where I will get wet. And of course, the more rows of leaves you do, the bigger your hat will be, because my hat does stop before I get to the back of my head. So realistically, we wanted more rows. So if I did 3 rows or 4 rows and then pulled it together, I think I should get a nice layer of leaves, which are lovely and waterproof, to keep me nice and dry. So if you want to have a go at making your own waterproof hat with the waterproof leaves in your garden, I would really love to see your attempt. Now you can try anything you like. If you want to staple it together, you want to sellotape it together, anything at all, see what you come up with. It's your creative opportunity, and I'd love to see a picture. So please do tweet any pictures, #NatureDays, or put them on the Facebook page. And please subscribe and like this post, and wait for tomorrow's exciting episode. Bye.